good to see you. I'm here.
Hello, hello, everybody. We are in here from Zoom, and this is all right. I just wanted to go in the Facebook group in case you all are in there. We need you to comment with us today. We need you to participate. I am excited about having author Tanya E. Hood in the group, and we are going over her book,
Yes.
Red Alert. And this is a book that's been very helpful. I know that Sandra Price mentioned that she had started reading it, and I read a little bit, haven't read much, but just hearing Tanya talk about her book is just so, it makes me excited to know that I'm going to learn what I need to learn to be able to have a successful relationship and marriage. And also overcome some of those obstacles like fear and anxiety and uncertainty and things like that. So Tanya is coming back. She was on Clubhouse in August, and she's coming back. And I've asked her to share about how she met her husband after her journey of divorce and healing from that. So Tanya, thank you so much for being here. And you all will learn that she is a woman of wisdom, that her voice, if you close your eyes and just listen, because I know we're on, right? So y'all gonna be looking at us, but she has so much wisdom. Her voice is so calm and soothing and consoling. And I just love hearing her. She has a podcast. She'll let you know more about that. She is on Clubhouse on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Is that right, Tanya?
Yes, it is.
And she's written this book, and I'm telling you, we need to take some gems from Tanya today and implement them in our lives. So hold on to your seats. Tanya is going to share, and we are just sitting around, as I always say, sitting around in our comfy clothes, sipping on whatever we have as a drink of choice, and learning from each other, laughing, crying, sharing, and Tanya's on the spotlight today.
Well, I want to say thank you. And I'm an interactive individual. So as you hear the discussion, you have comments, questions, or thoughts. I did log into the Facebook group so I can see comments a little bit, but most of my attention will be right here. So let me know if there's a comment, question, or thought. I can answer it along the way. But if I do not get the opportunity, I will get the chance to respond because I've been invited to the group. I can share and talk to you all and get more insights and answer questions. But today, to get into the discussion that you wanted me to have, let me share with you about my book. The book is called Red Alert, Is He the One? The Pocket Guide Defining the Love of Your Life. And this book was birthed because I went through a divorce. And when you go through a traumatic experience like that, you have to figure out a way to get healed and get whole. One of my core strengths is to be logical and analytical. So I did an autopsy on my divorce. I took the time I needed to get to know me better because I learned that in my divorce, I lost me. And oftentimes, if you've gone through an experience like that, you pour yourself so much into another individual, you can often lose who you are. Well, I lost me along the way. And I had to take some time to get back to being whole. So I'm an electrical engineer by discipline, project manager by trade. My logical, analytical mind forced me to write an outline because that's how I think. I think in outlines. So I created bullet points off of the various moments of chaos in my life to see where was the breakdown so that I can get myself to a position to be built back up. And that is what you're going to have to do as well. So one of the things that I share with individuals, single, divorce, it doesn't matter. It's about relationship. We are in relationship with every element of our lives, be it family, friends, loved ones, work, you name it. It's about relationship. But the core piece in all of that is you. So if you don't have enough clarity of who you are, then it makes it difficult for you to help others be in relationship with yourself. And that's what I discovered when I did the autopsy. I was on a journey because I knew at the essence of who I was a wife. But my divorce put me in a thought process that I wasn't doing this again. So I was not looking to get remarried. I wasn't looking to date because at the time that I got divorced, I had two little people. I had a 10-year-old and a 4-year-old. They were about 9.5, 3.5, so to round up, 10 and 4. And I did not want them exposed to people that I wasn't really sure how to vet. And having gotten married at 21, I didn't really go through a long dating period to figure out a whole lot of different things. But let me share something about what is written in the book. The book is structured to give you some insight from 3 different perspectives. I like to make things simple. As easy as it is to make, I will discover it and share it. And I know that when you're in the middle of a traumatic situation, you don't need a whole lot of information. You don't need a whole lot of steps. There's no 10-step, there's no 12-step, it's just 3. These 3 things you need to focus on is having a better relationship with yourself so that you can have a better relationship with others. And then here's the key piece, the piece that most people don't pay enough attention to. So I want you to hear me clearly when I tell you, the piece that will get you to your best breakthrough is having a better relationship with a being greater than yourself. For me, that's Jesus Christ. And I went on a journey with God because he had to remind me who I was. Because if you don't know who you are, you cannot be effective anywhere. There are strengths that are embedded in the seat of your soul that people need to see. And if you aren't aware of them, you won't have enough clarity about what to set as a standard for your life. So after my divorce, I had to take some time to tap into who I was. Because when you don't know who you are, you will allow other people to dictate your purpose, your performance, every element of your life. Someone else will make. If you are not the driver's seat, someone will step in. So let's not let that happen any further. So in chapter 1 of my book, I talk about getting clearance. And I went through a couple of different things to help me get clearance. See, the reason I know that having a being greater than yourself, and if it's not Jesus for you, okay. But I'm clear with everything of my fiber that knowing that it is God that created the universe with Jesus Christ as his son gives me a strategic viewpoint because in addition to what everything else is given, he wrote a book. Those of us that are in relationship with him call it the Bible. And in the Bible, there are so many things that are written that let you know how loved you are, how precious you are. And I don't know how many of you know this, but God calls you a masterpiece. And in the beginning, his chapter 1 called Genesis, he says that you are designed in his image. And if you're designed in the image of the creator of the universe, who are you to let somebody else tell you different? But when you don't know who you are, that's what happened. So I got lost because I did not pay enough attention to the fact that having a belief in who God was would allow me to have him enter into something as small as who to date, who to marry, what to do. I decided, and I wrote about this in chapter 1, to see if God really was so personal that he would help me find a man. So the book is called Is He the One? Because at that time, well, coming out of an 11-year marriage that ended in divorce, I got back into the dating scene because when you are in a relationship with someone for so long, you kind of miss having company. So I started dating again after my divorce. And by dating, I discovered that it was no better in my 20s than it was being in my early 30s. Only thing that happened in that time period was that the men just got 10 years older, but they were still operating like they were in high school. And I write a little more about this in chapter 3 of my book, because That was the moment that I had clear discovery that people were still sending their representatives. So if you don't know about a representative, then you have to read chapter 3. But let me give you a quick synopsis. A representative is that persona that we give to the world when we are still trying to figure it out. When you were in high school, you were still trying to decide which group of people you wanted to hang out with, what personality you really wanted to show. You trying to make that discovery until you were clear is send a representative. And it's not a problem to send a representative when you're in your teenage years. But if you are still showing up in your 30s with a representative, oh, I tell you, the chaos that shows up in dating is real. Now, before I go into more of that part, because to get to the place to let you know that now that I know who I am, have more clarity of my strengths, walking in my personal glory, I'm remarried. And I'm remarried with intention because I'm clear who I needed to be complementary to me. And I share more about that in my book as well. So let me pause for those of you that are watching me this way to see if there's any comments in the group. Hello. Hello, ladies. Glad you got the book. So glad that you are here. Yes, keep commenting. And just bear in mind that I'll be toggling back and forth to try to check on you.
Yeah.
Venetia, you have a couple of comments before I go any further?
Thank you so much for sharing about your book. You all can go to is it tanyaehood.com and order your book. You don't even have to wait until the end of this to do that. Go to tanyaehood.com and order your book. I told Tanya earlier, she's so well acquainted with her group and I really, with her book, I'm sorry. And I really appreciate that because there's no better book than someone who lived through something. And also, I think you have coaching services as well.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Because the things that I share on my podcast, which comes out every Tuesday at 7 at early in the morning on Tuesdays, and then I show up in Clubhouse in a room that I titled Red Alert Diaries, because I started sharing information with people and I decided, let's just call it Red Alert Diaries. So you get extra information that's birthed from insights from the book. And then we have a conversation.
Okay. Well, so you talked about after going through the healing process and recognizing who you are, you were able to see clearly the person that, I wrote down the person that has the capacity to love you and the capacity to be devoted to you. So tell me about that vision. Tell me about that process, because there is a process. And sometimes you can be crystal clear and sometimes you might not be clear, and you may have questions. And I anticipate you going to the Lord and maybe going to, wise counsel. I don't know, but tell us a little bit about that process.
So what I'll do for those of you, I'm going to extend a free chapter of my book. I'll put the link inside of the group so that you can get that chapter. But I want to read to you a piece of the process that I had to walk through. It's a lot easier because it's already written. I don't have to go back and revisit a whole lot. So this is the beautiful part about this. So let me share with you what happened.
Is this a chapter?
This is in chapter 1. This is in the free chapter that the group will receive.
What out?
Okay,
I said, I'm pull out the book.
Yes. So what happened to me was here in chapter 1, my ex showed back up as I was in the middle of my healing process. And because I was in the middle of my healing process, I was not clear enough about who I was. When you're in a relationship with someone for so long and trauma happens, your soul is tied to that person. And you don't often take enough time to see, was it really a supportive environment for me to be in there? But familiarity will cause you to do some dumb things. So this is what I did. I let him back into my life. And in this section, I said, my thought was just to go out on this date and see what he's like now. Well, that one date led to him living with me again. When I finally decided to look at my life 18 months later, I was repeating the patterns of our marriage. Only this time, I was not his wife, but he was still getting the royal treatment as if he was my husband. And as I looked at him sitting on my couch in my place, it dawned on me. I allowed my life to be hijacked by a man that was not supporting my best qualities. I failed to see that God had sent someone to help me get clarity before all this began. I should have listened to my girlfriend when she said, cancel. Well, all that happened in that moment is when God provides an opportunity to get away from the mess, but I didn't listen. So I rejoined myself with the same person after 15 years, knowing that I could not share my dreams and goals, knowing that he would not be able to help me get better emotionally, physically, or otherwise. And to make matters worse, there was no chemistry between us, only familiarity. And I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. So I decided that this could not have been God's plan for me. Then it hit me. What is God's plan for me? I had no idea. I then realized I never took the time to learn. I read my horoscope. I did a palm reading analysis. I did a destiny reading test and several other things I thought would give me direction, only to discover none of it worked. I knew of God, but the thought of going to the creator of the universe about my love life, was God so personal that I could really share what I was looking for in a man? Did God play Cupid? Well, I was about to find out. And I did, because that is when I took the time to tap into what God says. And in my book, I share with you 2 scriptures that God gives clarity. Because here's the beautiful thing. God never intended for you to be on this planet and not know how to function. When he created you, he said you were very good. When you read the introduction to his chapter 1, Genesis, he starts making the heavens and the earth, and he says it's good. He creates animals and plants. He says it's good. But when he made you, he said it's very good. So there is not a chance that the Lord of all that created your being would leave you here to your devices to get stuck and broken. The first step is tapping into who you are. You need to get clarity of your core strengths. You need to get clarity of your purpose. And because I went everywhere else, because astrology says that you can look to see your horoscope and it will give you insight, but that's just a glimpse of a small portion of your being. When I went through that destiny reading test and the palm reading analysis, getting so far off Keista, none of those things knew me at the core of my being like God knew me. So I had to tap into what that looks like. And in chapter 1, I went through some questions that I'll share with you. So when I give you the free chapter, use that gift to get you a head start into what's next. That will give you some insight. And for those of you that do not believe in the God I serve, because I understand, you still need to know who you are. Step 1 is clarity. One of the things that I started doing was sharing with people their core strengths. Because if you don't know your strengths, how do you know if someone else coming into your world compliments you? How would you know what their intentions are in your life if you are not clear about your intentions for your own life? So in chapter 5 of my book, when you get that one, I walk deeper into the tensions, because you need to know the intentions of others when they enter into your life. And then you need to know what's complementary. That's in chapter 6. You come to this planet full of gifts, full of strengths. But if you don't know it, you can't help anybody else know it either. The best relationship that you have is with yourself. And then you can introduce that to others. So my book is structured with that 3. The 3 is having a better relationship with yourself, to have a better relationship with others, so that you can have a better relationship with a being greater than yourself, which is the glue that seals it. Chapters 1 through 3 gives you personal insight about you. And in each chapter, I walk you through my autopsy. The outline that I wrote for myself to give me clarity after my divorce are questions that I asked myself. I needed to know more, but you have to ask yourself the hard questions because we don't often want to do that. Most of the time, people want to look at the fairy tale makeup that society does. You will let somebody else's vision in a book or thought in a movie dictate what love means to you. But if you don't know what it looks like, what they give will not support you. What I had to learn was that I'm logical, I'm analytical, I'm a supportive individual. I want to help, but I cannot. And this is the thing that I share for those that are supportive like me. You cannot pour all of who you are into somebody to try to build them up and fix them. You're not their creator. You were put here to support. And here's the beautiful thing about being a woman. And this is what I love about stepping into purity. It's an all-female group. And what God designed in the heart of your being is his essence. In the Bible, if you never knew, you are the only other being spoken of that has the same name as God when he speaks about enhancing, growing, developing, and creating. You were fashioned. Everything about you is to see insight into someone else. So when you see that man's brokenness, you're supposed to, but you're supposed to help direct him to his creator who will pour more into him. But if you're not sure what you're bringing to the table or clear that your support system is a strength to go there, what you'll do is try to fix every single thing about him. That's what got me lost in my first marriage. So in the hindsight, when I let the ex show back up, I forgot about some of the measures that I was working through to get me whole because he put me in a position because when we were married, he made more money than I did. So he provided the home. It was his finances that kept us stable. But after my divorce, I was clear that my logical, analytical mind could create my own environment. So I bought my own house. And then the remix of mess, I let him into my place. That's where I had to get myself together when I saw this man sitting on my couch in my house, not supporting any of the gifts that I just discovered about myself. So I had to clean house again. Each time you forget who you are, you're in reset. So I had to reset again. And when I decided to do that, it took me another 18 months. It already took me 18 months after my divorce to get myself partially together, to let him show up again, and allow another 18 months to go out the window, wasting time because I was not clear about who I was. So when he was put out, my reset clock started again. I went through another 18 months to fix what I was already walking through, to discover that I'm clear about some things. And in that time, I dated God. I dated God to hear more about what he said. So I spent time in my Bible, looking through the scriptures, finding what God wanted, finding what he had to say. And I discovered Isaiah chapter 32, verses 1-8, and 1 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1-10. Now, when you get the free chapter, you'll see the scriptures. So don't fight or try to figure out what those are. It'll be fine. You'll have it because that is where God describes a husband. He describes the man that you should have in your life. He describes a man that is after his own heart. And if you recognize the characteristics of those things, it makes your life easier. Because here's something else that I did. In my own strength, because we like to do stuff ourselves, even though we know God's there to help us, we think I'm strong enough to do this part. I'll call God in on the big stuff. Mistake. You need God in the little stuff. Think about this. God created something as small as an ant. And in a book in the Bible called Proverbs, he talks about this little ant doing things. There is nothing, absolutely nothing written in the Bible that is not intentional. God is an intentional God. He intends for you to be an intentional being. And if you are intentional about what you are doing, something small makes a strategic change that will have an impact that will help you maximize your life. And so that is why I learned, let God in on the small things. But before I learned that lesson, I wrote me a list. I wrote a list about the perfect man. I wrote a list about the man that I wanted in my life. I wrote down 20 things because I figured if I was wasting my time, let me not waste much more time because I'd already destroyed 5 years pretty much, repeating the past and going through the rest of the mess. But I wrote down 3 things initially. The first 3 things were straight carnal, y'all. I'm telling you, all of the time that I had spent with God, you would not have even thought that I spent any moments with him. And so for those of you that believe in the creator like I do, if you slip back, old habits, old behavior, past mess, do your own stuff, it's okay. You can reset. Vernicia, you want to say something about that?
I'm just wondering what those 3 things are.
So here's the 3 things, because I have always been drawn to just a man that is nice to me. I wasn't into any particular looks or any particular style, although there's a person that you are sort of attracted to by features because we're visual beings. So I dated what my grandmother called the Rainbow Coalition, because my grandmother taught me that dating is just getting to know what you like. So before I got married at 21, I started dating like about 18. And that short period of time, the dates that I had was just for me to discover, what foods do I like? Do I really like to have Chinese? Do I like Japanese food, Thai food? What was it like? And I went out with different individuals of those ethnic groups so I can get a true taste of the food. So I've dated what my grandmother called the Rainbow Coalition. And having been married to a Black man, I love my Black men, but I wanted a different reset. And the only other person that was kind of really nice to me that I really enjoyed, because I discovered I really like tacos and I like empanadas. And so I was like, let me put down, I want him to be Spanish. I want him to be built because I've always been drawn to like the football player, the broad shoulders. It's just something about the broad shoulders that sits in my soul. So I needed the broad shoulders. I wanted him muscular. Those are the first 3 things. When I tell y'all, when you have a relationship with God, he will tap you on the shoulder and be like, we just got finished talking. I gave you 2 whole scriptures with an entire description of who to look for. And this is what you do? Well, y'all, I had to check myself. I said, whoops, let me fix this. So I went back. I didn't start over. I just let number 4 be written out of the scriptures. So the next 10 things on that list were things out of Isaiah and Timothy. The next 7 things on my list, because I got to 20, y'all, right? 7, I had learned, was the number of completion. So I was going to do 7 things specific to me, unique to me, my little quirks, my little innuendos, the things that make Tanya, Tanya. Like I have a way of reconstructing conversations, and I will make up a word in a heartbeat. And so I call it Tanyanese. So whoever was going to be a part of my life needed to be able to speak fluent Tanyanese. I also needed a man that could follow the conversation. I read somewhere that women speak in spider webs because we start in one point, we go in that thought, connects to another thought, we go into a different thought, connects another thought, we go into another thought, and then eventually we'll come back and we create the whole picture. Because when you follow it as a woman, you know where we're going. But some men have some difficulty keeping up. So what I needed was a man that could keep up. I know how to break it down into compartments to make this simple moment for him. But when I'm sharing in my quiet time and my playful moments and I just want to be me. You got to catch up, shorty. So I needed that. I also needed a man to know that even though I'm a supportive individual, the analytical, logical part of me is not going to take the time to make you feel like you're encouraged or edified every second of the day. I'm not the woman that's wired to try to give you all kinds of adorations. If you're a man that needs somebody to talk to you and help you see every second of the day that you're wonderful, you need to know that you're wonderful. I will let you know. My gift is to encourage. I'm an exhorter. It's one of my spiritual gifts, but it's not something that I do on a regular basis. My primary gift is teaching and administration. And in the Bible, these are written as well. So when you get to chapter 6 of the book, there are 18 different spiritual gifts that are written throughout the Bible, and I'll walk you into that. So those of you that get the book, just go to chapter 6, and this will be listed there. And the difference between gifts and talents is something that I share because a lot of people mix up gifts and talents. A gift is what you're born with. You have a natural gift. That natural gift is your strength. You carry it wherever you are, and you need to know what it is because if you don't know your strengths, that person that keeps asking you to do stuff, well, they're asking you because they see your strengths. And if you don't maximize the use of it, it will be whittled away. At the end of the day, you'll be so exhausted and not know how to get refilled because knowing your gifts lets you know when you need to be refilled. I'm clear that my most powerful gift is being logical, analytical, structured, and organized. I do that well. I also have a part of me that is really supportive, but it takes so much out of me to do that I need time to myself. So I needed a man that would know that when Tanya needs to have a Tanya moment, if I decide I need to walk away if we're in conflict, because the other thing that I share in my course, and I work with divorcees mostly. So because I work with divorcees as a primary support to them, because I know the drama and I know the chaos, my course is titled Navigating Life After Divorce. And in that course, I give those individuals insights into their core strengths so that they can maximize what they're bringing to the table. And I also show them their natural conflict sequence because we all have one. You go into conflict, but if you're not aware of the different stages of conflict that you walk in so that you can quickly eliminate it, then you're at a detriment. So in my course, it's 5 weeks, and I just finished doing a free webinar to give people insight about it. So if you go to my YouTube channel, Tanya E. Hood, and then click on to Navigating Life After Divorce, there's a 2-day free session that gives you some insights into what I share in the 5-week course. Now, that is just a quick synopsis because in the course, I take you into a deeper place. I give you more insight and ways to communicate more effectively to build a firmer foundation for yourself and those around you. So let me get back to what I was sharing about conflict, because when I walk into conflict, you can have conflict, but people misuse the word. What I'm sharing when I say conflict is when people go into conflict, that means your core values have been challenged. Your strengths that you bring to the table are what you want to always ensure you protect. And if you feel that it's being challenged, then you enter into conflict. But what often happens with people is that they determine that differences is conflict, and that's not true. You can have a difference of opinion without being disagreeable. It is okay to have differences. It is okay for someone else to have another opinion. But what is not okay is when you enter into conflict and decide to label everything conflict, you don't have a way of distinguishing what you should really focus your energy on. Because in conflict, we have to focus our energy. In conflict, we narrow our view. In conflict, your desire is to get us out of it as fast as you possibly can. And to do that, You limit what you see. You conserve your energy. And I share 3 separate stages. In stage 1, you are focusing to solve the problem. You're going to try to make certain that other people are okay, but you want to make certain that you're fine as well. So if there's other information that somebody else can bring that is different than what you're thinking, when you enter into conflict, you can't hear it. But if you recognize it just as a difference of opinion, then you can get some insight from somebody else's strength that will make you have a masterful moment that will solve the solution, will give you a solution for that particular problem. So what I needed was someone to know when I'm in conflict and when there's a difference of opinion, because my first husband didn't understand it. And because I didn't know it either, I couldn't help him. So one of those other things that I wrote about me was a man that would know if I went silent, it doesn't mean I'm mad at you. It doesn't mean I have issues with you. It just means something in me was triggered. Something in me touched a core value that got hurt. And because I got hurt, at that point, I had done enough work on myself to not let my heartache spew over into him to cause him distress and damage that will traumatize my marriage. I didn't want to do that. So I learned beforehand to go silent because I had to pull up another strength. And when you go through your conflict sequence, when I help you identify it, I show you what other strengths to utilize to support you so that you don't stay in it long. Because when I go silent, it's only maybe about 15 minutes because I'm in reflect mode. For me, my stage 1 conflict is to be analytical. So I'm more cautious when I realize I'm triggered. But that doesn't mean I don't want to have a conversation. That doesn't mean I don't want to connect. It just means I need a moment. So I needed a man that could understand that. And the only man that will be able to understand that was a man that was connected to God's own heart. Because if he's not created to the one that made me, he can't get a download. And that brings me to my current husband. Because after doing all of this work, y'all, writing down all the stuff on that list, getting all this insight about myself, recognizing my personal conflict triggers, because you need to know them before you let anybody else into your world. Because if they step on some landmines that you have not discovered, you will blow them up. You will ruin a relationship. You could have the right man, but if you're not ready and he shows up at the wrong time, you will destroy that relationship. So let's not do that. Take the time you need to heal. Take the time you need to know your strengths. Take the time you need to understand your own conflict sequence. So, in the book, for those of you that get it, my husband, Eric, is the mentor. I met him while I was still working on me. I met him, wasn't at the time that was right for me, but God had told him that I was his wife. Huh? Ain't that something? Here's the thing. God knows who's complementary to your strengths. God knows who will listen to the heart of his soul to give impact to his daughter so she can stay whole. I met my husband before I was ready. So God in his glory didn't let that union happen. But what God did do was let us be friends. That's one of the first things to have in a relationship, a friendship. Think about it. You share your deepest moments with your friends. You share your joys, you share your excitements, you have fun with your friends. I encourage you not to marry a man that you are not first friends with. Be friends first. And then there's a second step to that God puts in his Bible. In the Bible, when you read about the relationship being into marriage, they go into something called courting. Courtship is when the families are connected, when you bring in other individuals, his family, those that know him, those that are closest to him, your family, those that know you, those that are closest to you. And there is a community that is surrounding those individuals. That collective community is there to help you all be strengthened. That's the courtship part. It's not just you dating somebody and y'all going off all by yourself. No, you need to see him around his friends. You need to see him in his essence, because here's what I write in chapter 4. It's called patterns. You've got to know his patterns, because that man will show you some elements of himself, but his friends and family will give you pieces of things you have not yet seen. When Eric and I started in our friendship, it was with me working on my business. I'm an entrepreneur. I have a couple of different businesses, and my main focus right now is to function with supporting the insight from my book. So most of what I do now is have speaking engagements, conversations with women in group environments like this to pour into them insight about their core strengths. I walk those that want to have a group purchase for the course, Navigating Life After Divorce, but in a corporate environment, I just share the core strengths element. So I do that as well. So in this particular place, I was working in the financial services business. I no longer do that, but I still share elements about what I know. Because in my course, realizing that my finances got devastated after my divorce, I went from a 736 credit score down to 526. And so I share with individuals how to get out of that. And I also cleared up $35,000 worth of debt that was left to me in the aftermath of my divorce. If you're on Clubhouse, you can join me in this phenomenal room. It's called Winning in Wealth. It's a special club that people on Clubhouse have pulled together. Miss Shatika Husser had God's vision to have community of individuals to pour into others, and I'm a member of her club. And on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can find me on Clubhouse having a discussion about credit so that I can help you get to your best possible position. Now, for those of you that just want to hear a little bit more about my financial services piece, that's just simply where I met my husband. God just used that as a vehicle because he knew where Eric was. Here's a beautiful thing. You do not have to go find your husband. Think about it. When God brought Eve to Adam, God did that. Eve didn't go looking for Adam. I don't think that girl even knew Adam existed. All Eve knew was God, because she was birthed in his presence. Adam was somewhere sleeping while God was doing all these things. You do not have to be strategically placed anywhere. Don't go looking, don't go finding, don't try to figure out. Your responsibility is to operate in excellence with your core strengths, operate in your purpose, function in your glory. And when God is ready, he'll take you where you need to be so that you can be introduced. Well, while I was working on myself, getting much better, I met my husband. We became friends. He became my mentor in the financial services field because he was a lot higher up in that, and I was one of the mentees that was assigned to him. Well, while we were having discussions about business, he let me know that your personal life shows up professionally. So if you don't get it together, you will never be able to get to your financial position that you desired. And I listened to his financial advice. I listened to him mentor me through the process. And because we had such a close relationship, getting to know each other, it spilled over into friendship. And then after a while, he would send me morning scriptures. Here's the thing that started blowing me away. I got up early because by then I had learned to spend more time with God so I don't get derailed by the ex or anyone else, because I share with you in chapter 3, when I got derailed again after the ex, it's a whole lot of trauma, y'all. So we go through stuff as women. I went through some stuff and I have shared it. So don't go stepping on the landmines that I did. Read chapter 3 because I let Mr. show up and get me off track. In the meantime, while I am dating Mr., the mentor, my husband to be that I did not know, was just being a really good friend to me. And he realized that I was being distracted by Mr. and my business was being impacted. So he prayed for me. And I was still saying my quiet time, getting up in the morning, spending time with God. So I had a scripture from God. And then Eric, the mentor, would send me a scripture. It was the exact same scripture. When I tell y'all, God will give you clarity about who he wants, because God knew what he was having me read. And it started to baffle me that God was having Eric read the same things. I'm like, oh, you letting him eavesdrop on our conversation. But I needed God to eavesdrop because I needed somebody bigger than me that can see more elements than I could. You do not want to enter into a relationship that does not have a man that can hear God's voice. I knew Eric heard God because when God was giving me a download on my personal scriptures, he was giving Eric the same download. And so after my moment with Mr. Get through chapter 4, because the patterns that Mr. was showing me was giving me some red flags. So I wrote a lot of that information down for you. So listen to the red flags. I won't be able to share all of those today. I may be able to come back another time, but if you get the book, you can get it quicker. So what I also learned to do by paying attention in community with what God called courtship, Eric, when I stopped going through the stupidity with Mr. started courting me. I didn't initially realize I was being courted, but friendship leads to courtship, and then the logical outcome in God's direction is marriage. So he started introducing me to more of his friends. And I felt a little comfortable to introduce him to more of our work friends. But when you're a mother, take your time introducing the men that you date to your children. I write about this in chapter 5 because I had to be clear about his intentions before I decided to introduce him to my children. One of the things that I did in my 20s, I picked back up in my 30s. When I dated someone, because my grandmother told me dating is just figuring out what you like, which means you didn't need to know where I live. Well, we had just one phone. Most people had a house phone back then, didn't have a cell phone or all these different things. But now in the new millennium, I have a Google Voice number. You can get a free Google Voice number to download the Google Voice app on your phone. And when you call from your phone, you do not have to call from your personal phone number. You can call from the Google Voice app to those individuals that you decide you want to date. And if they lose their mind, you can get rid of that Google Voice number, get a brand new one, and start over if you decide. It saves you from giving out your personal information. And the other thing that I did was get the chance to meet people. I would meet the men that I was dating wherever. If we were going to a restaurant, I'll meet you there. Because what I did not want to have happen, and it's the same thing that my grandmother told me. Back then, she said, always have $5 and a quarter in your pocket. $5 was for you to catch a cab, because that's about how much it took to get home from wherever I was. I'm a native of Washington, D.C. So it didn't take much to get around the city because it's only 10 square miles in either direction. So $5 would get me home, and a quarter at that time would help you pay for a payphone because we didn't have cell phones. So you had to go to a payphone, and it cost a quarter to make a call. So if I needed a call for help, I had my $5 and my quarter. Well, fast forwarding after my divorce, we now have cell phones. So I figured out how to get an ulterior number, and I drove my car so I can take me home. Because if this date did not go like I wanted, I didn't have to wait for you to take me anywhere. I would be like, I've enjoyed my time with you. And if I didn't, I was honest. Okay, this was interesting. We won't be doing this again. You enjoy the rest of your evening. And I would get up and go. Because I can go home. I don't have a problem making certain I can get where I need to be. So make certain when you date, you make certain that you are okay. So when Eric wanted to introduce me to others in the courting phase, I still did the same thing I was doing before. Drive, let's go meet, have that environment. But then while we were going through that, there were different things that God started letting happening. I don't know, and according to my husband, because I didn't know, He started smelling real good. Now, he said he always smelled good. And I'm certain that he did, but it wasn't clear to me until God said I was ready. By the time I started noticing my husband, I was ready for him. I was clear about my strengths. I knew what I wanted. I got rid of the hot mess and learned some more lessons from going on a date with Mr. And I write about those patterns and those red flags. And I renewed my relationship with myself. Ladies, if you need to take some time to apologize to you for the hot mess you put you through, do it. Because when you get it out your soul, it leaves you free to be open and whole. So when I got free to be open and whole, Eric started smelling good. Eric started looking cute. Eric started being present a little bit more. So what I started doing was deciding, we've already hang out as friends. It looks like you're letting me hang out with more of your people. Let's take a moment and see what this looks like if it was just you and me. So we started dating. And in our dating time, I recognized some things on my list. Now, the list was a chaotic list a little bit, but those things, those 10 that God showed me and told me to write down, I started to see. I started to recognize, oh, that's in Isaiah. Oh, that's in Timothy. Well, lo and behold, you are a man after God's own heart. The next thing I had to do, because I knew about me, was to check to see where he was complimentary, because I know I have a strength being logical and analytical. How structured are you? Do we complement each other that way? And if you are, what does that look like? Well, I learned he was just as structured as I was, so that worked out well. The things that we talked about, he's a native of Washington, D.C., just like me. It became so easy to have a conversation. It was just like, I've known him my whole life. I picked up in pieces that I really needed along the way, because most of my time in relationship with my ex, I had to spend a third of my life with just one man. And so I could not fully be all of me there, because that first husband, he needed me to be more encouraging, all of the little, what I call blue pieces. So if you join my course, then you'll understand the colors, because blue is a focus on people. So the supportive, encouraging nature that he needed me to pour out all the time, and I couldn't. It was difficult. But Eric didn't need all of that. What I also learned is that my ex-husband and my current husband have the same strengths. But the difference between the two is Eric knew his. The difference between the two, Eric let God guide his. The difference between the two was knowing that the creator of my soul tapped into the creation of his soul. And together, the relationship, which is what marriage is about, is supposed to edify, grow, and enhance the world around you. My strength met his strength. His guidance met my guidance. Our God brought us together, and together we had a marriage and go through what some would say is phenomenal. Y'all, I tell you, I'm still dating my husband. Friday nights is date nights, which is why I couldn't have no conversation with you yesterday. That's why I don't get the chance to join Stepping into Purity on Clubhouse at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Some moments, because I'm doing all of this, Eric says, okay, I'll meet back up, but they'll be done by 7, right? I'm like, yeah, so we done by 7.
Tanya told me she has date nights. I was like, I absolutely love it. Forget it. I will break all my rules. Have you on night, because Friday night, date night for a married couple. Let's do it. Let's go. I love it.
Yes. And because I did Wednesday teaching, Thursday teaching, yeah, I could not miss Friday night so I could show up here today.
Amen. Amen. I love it. Shatika said that she could see it. She said, child, I can hear her now. I see the love on your face. It's a beautiful thing. I love that. God, it's like he gifted you. And that's how our good God is, right?
He is.
He gives us good and perfect gifts, and he gifted you with this beautiful story, with
Yes.
the beautiful story of coming through heartbreak, entering into healing so that you can teach it. And then with this beautiful, and the word product comes to mind, but it's not product, but it's
It's
the
God's
result of
creation. God's creation.
it's God's creation. And
Mhm.
I'm so encouraged. The ladies in the group, yes, they're still dating, and
Take a look. Some things.
so good. Tanya, Kristen said, I am apologizing to myself right now. Like, you are really making a difference and a great impact
Oh.
group and in my life. Look, y'all, I done wrote 3.5 pages of notes. And Tanya, this is so rich. I'm glad that it's recorded, that it will be saved in the group. If you all are watching, I should have said this in the beginning. If you're watching the replay, even if you're watching it right now, make sure you put hashtag replay so that we know you were here, and also let us know where you're joining from. So Tanya's book is on tanyaehood.com, and you can go there and get it. It's a wonderful pocket-sized book. You can put it right in your purse.
Yep.
And it's organized so well. It's organized for people like me who can take small chunks, who need to take small chunks and read, because it's hard for me to get through a book, y'all. But because of my attention span, and because I'm a processor. So I'll start writing stuff and journaling and thinking and processing. And I just need to stay focused. But this book right here, Tanya, I'm going to definitely get through this book because it is a lifesaver. It's a lifesaver, y'all. Look what the result is and what God has blessed her with. And I'm not saying it's about the destination or the results. It really is about the journey and how intimate her relationship is with the Lord. And I remember my last relationship that ended in 2016. It was heartbreak. There's a lot of tears, but man, my relationship with God got closer than it's ever been.
Indeed.
And it's been beneficial because I see things from his perspective, and I'm like running to God, staying up under his underarm. And I recently got into a relationship, and I am still up under God's underarm because I'm not leaving God for anybody. I'm not
Exactly.
status, any position, any man, any whatever.
And it stays the same when you're married, because Eric knows God first. I love you.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I will only do what God says.
Amen. Amen. And that's so important. I'm so glad you said that, because, and we can do this on another day, but the boundaries that you have now in dating, you need to establish boundaries, period, in life, right? You need them at work, you need them with yourself, you need them with your family, your friends, dating, but also there are boundaries that you have in marriage, and we'll have another live talking about that. But Tanya, this live has been very enriching. Thank you for bringing us into your marriage and letting us know how that journey happened. I love the idea of being friends because, like you said, you have fun with your friends. Just think, if you don't have good friends, get some so that you can develop relationships with friends. So then you know what it is to marry your best friend, to meet that person and hold up some or create some boundaries so that you are in the friend zone for a significant amount of time to see if that person knows how to even be a friend. And if you know how to establish those boundaries before getting into a relationship. You want to date your best friend, and you want to date, what do friends do? My friends, they care for me, they support, they check on me, they pray for me, they give, they're generous. And some of my friendships have been a work in progress. There are, several of my friends, we've had fallen outs. And guess what we did? We recovered because we knew the value and the asset of having that person in our lives. And we wanted to repair that relationship so that we can continue to be friends. And several of my friends, So even when you go through conflict, like Tanya talked about, and even when you go through falling out, it doesn't mean you can't recover from that.
Exactly.
God can let us know what the red flags are, and the red flags meaning walk or run, and then he can also let you know what red flags mean. Hey, this is an area that you need to pay attention to, that you need to work through. And that's how you learn conflict resolution. And that's how you learn how to communicate. And your own stuff will come out in those relationships as well that you need to work on, so that you don't drag it into a marriage.
Exactly.
And I'm very passionate about not dragging stuff that you can work on right now as a single individual into a marriage. We got to unpack those bags, and we can't delay that. So I am available for coaching. Tanya's available for coaching. We have some other people, Sharice Josie, who's a therapist, and there's somebody else who's a counselor as well. There are loads of people in this group, married and single, that you can connect with. So if I'm not the one for you, if Tanya's not the one for you, I can definitely refer you to somebody else. I'm very good at that. And I'm not at all selfish or, territorial. I know that there's someone for everybody, and we all need help. It takes a village to have a successful relationship, to have a successful life, and to have a successful marriage. It takes a village. We can't do it alone, and we can't be isolated. So Tanya, remind us of your weekly clubhouse and podcast and things like that, and then we'll close out.
So for those of you that would like to get the book, it also has a companion workbook that goes with it that takes you into a deeper insight. You can go to my website, tanyaehood.com. There, you can also find me in the various social media platforms that I'm located on at the bottom of the screen. Join me in those other places. And if you're on Clubhouse, you can join me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the Red Alert Diaries room. In that room, I share information from my podcast that comes out on the same day that's pulling life lessons from my book. I share it on Spotify and on my YouTube channel. So if you want to get the immediate notice about the podcast, go to my YouTube channel, like, subscribe, and share, and put the reminder when you see that the podcast date is going to come out. Put the reminder, set that up early so that those that really want to hear it when it goes live, you get the chance to do so. And then if you're on Clubhouse, I encourage you to join a community of individuals that is supportive. This is how Vernicia and I got the chance to meet. This phenomenal woman of God I would have missed if I was not in the place. So I encourage you to go on Clubhouse to the Winning and Wealth Club. In that club on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm sharing some insight about credit, because in my 5-week course, I talk about your core strengths. Sometimes I share it on my podcast, sometimes I don't. I share information about how to get to your best possible position financially. In the course, I give you that insight. And on Clubhouse Wednesdays, I come in and give you some touch points there as well. So if you want to accelerate what you know, get to your best possible position faster, then you'll want to go to my website, tanyaehood.com. Click with the Work With Me tab, and there you will find the various ways to have me and you work together. And on Clubhouse, the conversation in the Winning and Wealth Club and in the Red Alert Diaries room. That covers it.
Don't y'all just love her voice? All day long. I'm like, oh, we gotta go.
But we gotta go.
Yes, Tanya's gonna start the countdown in a minute.
I gave you 5 minutes. It's okay. We got one more minute.
So in the Winning and Wealth group, 6 a.m.
Eastern Standard Time.
Your girl knows it's 6 a.m. Okay. The Winning and Wealth group, founded by Shatika Husser, CEO of Husser Financial Solutions, started that group, and we're in there. Tanya and I, Renaya is in there, and Sandra Price is in there. And we are making our declarations, saying our affirmations, and also prayers going through, and also learning how to partner. So if you are a person in business, you need partners, and you're looking for people to support you, this is the perfect place to learn how to do a pitch in 60 seconds, because Tanya going to do the countdown. I'm going to get her to demonstrate the countdown before we get off today. But Tanya, again, thank you. I am humbled. Thank you so much for being willing to share with us, to reach back. Married people who reach back and help the single sisters, the single bros. I have so much respect, and my heart is so full, because we, a lot of us have a desire for marriage, and very few people are teaching us the steps to a healthy marriage. Some people just want you to get married, but they ain't trying to teach you nothing, and they're not trying to uncover anything they've been through, their journey. And so you have been very humble today, and thank you, and thank Eric, because he has to allow you to share these things or be in agreement to that. So thank you all, and God bless you. And we're gonna end this live, ladies. Drop your comments, any questions. We'll be keeping our eyeballs in there. Also, make sure you go and buy the book, Red Alert Diaries, Is He the One? All right, Tanya, countdown.
And thank you so much. And we welcome you to come back next time. And we're leaving for this day in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take care, everyone.